in Canada, we have a branch banking system. The U.S. has a unit banking system.
Right.
So when we have, if one part of Canada is suffering, they think of the fisheries in the Maritimes. They're not having. They can be offset by the fact that the rest of the country will keep our system afloat, because our population is small, but we have a hugely well-capitalized banking industry, and which is why I would sometimes argue that some of these more recent changes they've made really weren't needed to come in, because they're fairly odious that we see today. We even look at timely right now that we have the Silicon Valley Bank that's gone under, but interesting, they have no bad loans.
No.
They are a profitable bank with no bad loans, right?
But it was not a question of bad loans.
It wasn't.
Because
which it usually
they had no money.
Right. They had a run on the depositors. So people who used to borrow said, no, I'll deplete my deposits.
Yeah.
So I don't need a loan anymore, thanks.
So
and
$45 billion in one day.
Right. But if there's a mismatch, right, all banks are is they take, Roberta's deposit money and lend it to your business. Yeah. And if all of a sudden Roberta says, I want all my money back, and they can't legally call your loan, they have a mismatch, right?
Yeah.
And that funding arrangement is what went sideways. Actually, I get nervous when there's bad loans because there's a moral hazard issue here.
Right.
When you look at SVB, it was actually a pretty well-run bank. The problem is it was undercapitalized.
Right.
So in Canada, if the Toronto branch of the TD Bank all of a sudden lost a $4 billion deposit, they wouldn't like that, and they'd be pretty upset by that, and somebody would probably get fired if it was a client service issue, but they're still meeting payroll on Thursday.
Yeah. Yeah.
So because we have our system isn't micro-regionalized. If you're a regional bank in Kansas and you have a bad corn crop, your bank's struggling. Not because you got bad people you lend to, it's because you got a bad corn crop.
Yeah.
So, and Canada doesn't really have that issue. Even our provincially regulated financial institutions, we have provincial trusts and we have provincial credit unions who manage that. They're very, very well capitalized. So in Canada, we've developed world leadership in our financial institutions.
Yeah.
So on that front, like in 2008, when the rest of the world was getting beat up, we were okay. We were pretty good.
Yeah.
The market took a hit. As the market's taking a hit today, as I left the office, we're down 358 points on the stock exchange.
And Dow Jones?
Yeah, well, in Toronto Stock Exchange.
Okay.
So, but what does that tell you though, right? We didn't have a bad bank go bad. But everybody, it's a world small, right? Everybody feels it. But I say this, there's some bargains out there today. If you're, putting is it a good time to sell or a good time to buy? It's a better time to buy stocks today than it is to sell. But having said that, we're very fortunate in Canada.